Why would someone throw a 200-guest wedding on a swamp crawling with 160 crocodiles? Let me tell you about the day Linda, the HOA queen with a clipboard and a vendetta, thought she could steal my land for her daughter's Pinterest-perfect nuptials, only to get served a slice of karmic justice by a 12-foot croc named Crunch McGee. Buckle up, because this is a story of petty power grabs, federal helicopters, and a marsh that bites back. I'm just a guy who wanted peace after 32 years wrestling pythons and drunk gators for the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. I retired to 23 acres of Florida muck tangled brush, murky ponds, and man-made enclosures built for a defunct conservation program. When the feds needed a new home for 160 crocodiles, I stepped up. Got the permits, built fences tougher than a tank, and named every crocsome with a wink, like Judge Judy or Gatorade, others with a nod to history, like General Mudsworth or Shady McBite. For 4 years, it was just me, my swamp, and my scaly buddies. Quiet. Perfect. Until Linda Marie Voss strutted in, heels sinking into the mud like she was claiming the moon. Linda moved in 6 months ago, her McMansion perched where the HOA's manicured lawns met my wild marsh. First time I met her, I was knee-deep in algae, tossing chicken thighs to Crunch McGee. She stormed up to my fence, sunglasses the size of hubcaps, and barked. "I'm getting complaints about a smell." I blinked. "Lady, you're 20 feet from a crock toilet. What do you expect, roses?" No laugh. Just a sniff and a scribble on her clipboard. That was the warning shot. She came back with a tape measure, spouting some HOA rule about standing water near houses. I laid it out. My ponds weren't standing, they were swarming. My land wasn't HOA turf, and the only thing ornamental here was Crunch sunbathing like a leathery rock star. Didn't faze her. She snapped photos like she was paparazzi, muttering about community standards. Then came the courtesy notices, for weeds, unregistered fauna, even swamp noise over 65 decibels. Pure nonsense, printed on fake letterhead. I knew then, Linda didn't just want control. She wanted my land. It got sneaky. Lot stakes on my property vanished, replaced by a yoga mat and a flyer for Serenity by the Swamp. I left the mat, added some croc dung, and the yoga stopped. But Linda doubled down, petitioning to rezone my marsh as underutilized green space. She held megaphone rallies on her patio, preaching about walking trails and beautifying my thistle patch. I tried playing nice, offered coffee, sent permit PDFs, even invited her to see the enclosures. Her reply? "We'll see what the county says." She called my land the West Zone, like she was colonizing Narnia. Things escalated when she stuck a fence 5 feet into my property for an event area. I ripped it down. She called the sheriff, who took one look at my signs, my permits, and a 20-foot crock by the water pump, then told her to scram. Linda accused me of weaponizing wildlife. The sheriff laughed. I didn't. She was relentless, sending letters from her made-up Neighborhood Enhancement Committee. Her sister Janet, and a yappy poodle. They claimed my crocs were a public nuisance. I faxed back federal wildlife forms with the Department of the Interior seal in red highlighter. Crickets. Then she spread lies, said my enclosures were shoddy, my crocs trafficked. I lost egg customers. Someone slipped a note in my mailbox. "We don't want Jurassic Park." I gritted my teeth. Linda wasn't just a pest, she was a power-hungry bully gaslighting the neighborhood. She even wrote in the HOA newsletter about my marshes' potential for family-friendly events. That's when I got serious. I wasn't just the swamp guy anymore, I was a licensed wildlife officer with a deed tighter than Fort Knox. I hired a drone crew for aerial proof of my property lines, printed 40 copies of my conservation easement, and delivered them in wax-sealed folders. Linda called it intimidation. I called it truth. She didn't stop. Tire tracks appeared where she planned her event lawn. Then came the bombshell, a glossy brochure in every mailbox announcing Amelia's dream wedding. On Willow Grove Commons, my land, smack over Crunch McGee's nesting trench. No permits, no zoning approval, just Linda's delusion of a 200-guest extravaganza with tents, a quartet, and a swan release during croc nesting season. I called the county. They fed no permits, no way. Felony territory. But Linda didn't care. She thought she could will it into reality. I didn't tip her off. Why spoil the show? I let her dig her grave, documenting every step and staked into protected soil, extension cords VYO codes, a dance floor 10 feet from a croc burrow. On wedding day, I set up my lawn chair, binoculars, and a cooler, ready for the chaos. By 9 a.m., interns swarmed, hauling flowers and wires. A groomsman nearly face-planted in the bog. At 10:37, a drone buzzed too close to the pond, spooking the nesters. I smirked. This was gonna be biblical. Guests rolled in BMWs, limos, women in stilettos stabbing the dirt. Linda greeted them, smile tight as a drum, ignoring the generator's sputter. At 1:45, the quartet started, VY brat irons rippling through the marsh. I felt its stillness, then the rustle. Cattails swayed. Water splashed. A hiss. At 1:53, Daisy May, Crunch's mate, emerged like a muddy tank, eyes on the bridal arch where bridesmaids sipped champagne. Crunch followed, 800 pounds of bad attitude, growling so deep it shook my coffee cup. Screams erupted. A flower girl fell in a trench, losing her shoes. The best man tripped over an ice bucket. Guests scattered like roaches. Linda stood frozen, yelling into a dead walkie-talkie for an HOA attorney. I dialed my fish and wildlife contact. CIVY liens in a protected zone. Nesting disturbance. On camera, he said. We're coming. I switched on my radio scanner. By 2:12, a croc hit the buffet, snagging pulled pork. Linda's niece tried fanning it off. Big mistake. The live stream exploded. The swamp wedding trended as guests fled, filming. I made a second call, this time to Homeland Security. Crunch was part of an international biodiversity program, technically under their radar. Long shot? Maybe. But at 2:41, choppers roared into a blacked-out beasts, no markings, blades shredding the sky. One circled, the other hovered, toppling chairs and bouquets. Linda's hair stuck to her lip gloss as DHS agents rappelled down, asking, "Who authorized this wildlife disturbance?" I watched, pen flying, as agents herded guests away. Amelia, the bride, sprinted barefoot, veil flapping, last seen hiding in a catering van. Linda waved an HOA newsletter as proof of her comments. The agent wasn't impressed. By 3:10, the wedding was dead. By 3:12, the live stream hit 400,000 VYUs. News choppers circled. The HOA site crashed. A VY Deo titled, HOA Bride vs. Swamp Beasts, was born. Next morning, feds swarmed DHS, wildlife agents, even a state auditor with a clipboard like a shield. Linda, hat drooping, faced a firing squad of charges: habitat destruction, endangering protected species, fraud, and obstructing enforcement, thanks to her walkie-talkie meltdown. Soil samples, drone logs, and my certified EVY Denke buried her. Turns out, she'd funneled HOA funds to her cousin's sketchy landscaping firm for commons prep, BYO-latting anti-nepotism laws. The neighborhood revolted. A class action lawsuit hit the HOA for fraud and misinformation. Lawn signs flipped from Proud Willow Grove to Not My Swamp. Linda resigned, moved away, her house sold at a loss to a biologist who loves the marsh. The HOA collapsed, and I helped form the Willow Grove Conservation Committee, chairing it myself. We got a mural on the old HOA clubhouse, a croc leaping at a bride topper, titled, Justice with Scales. A new sign marks the marsh. Protected by crocodiles, lawyers, and God. I walk past it daily, coffee in hand, Crunch grumbling nearby. The marsh is quiet again, and that's the real win. Linda thought she could bully nature and rewrite boundaries. She forgot one thing: swamps don't negotiate, and neither do I.